What if we are here for a reason? What if we are a part of something truly divine? Imagine 91 billion light years traveled like that.
Sweet dreams are made of this.
Your father has accomplished something extraordinary, also dangerous.
Everybody's looking for something.
He's trapped by a darkness that's actively spreading throughout the universe. And the only one who can stop it is you. Be a warrior.
I'll try.
You're going to be tested every step of the way. Trust nothing.
Darling, time for dinner. Are you lost?
The only thing faster than light is the darkness.
On March 9th of 2018, Disney is going to feature a movie adaptation of the novel A Wrinkle in Time. Now, the fact that it stars Oprah Winfrey should give you a hint as to New Age themes, occultic themes, what have you. It also stars Chris Pine and Reese Witherspoon, and even just looking at the poster itself, you can see everything looks kind of wrinkled. They're trying to say that there is something behind our reality, when really, when you know what the true model of the earth is, we know that this is all fantasy, that they want people to believe in alternate realities, they want people to believe in portals, when really it is all a ploy to show that the fallen angels and Lucifer himself is going to be coming into our world or manifesting themselves very soon. Now, according to IMDb, it says that after the disappearance of her scientist father, 3 peculiar beings send Meg, her brother, and her friend to space in order to find them. Now, already you can see the space programming going on here. You can see 3 peculiar beings, which we will talk about in a little later while. But really, we can see that there are themes in this movie that we have discussed many times over on this channel. And as I said before, this is actually a movie adaptation of a novel written back in 1963. It was a science fantasy novel written by American writer Madeleine L'Engle, and I'm actually, instead of showing screenshots this time, I am going to read through the plot summary that I found quite fascinating right here on Wikipedia and go through some other information as we read through it together. So the plot starts off with 13-year-old Meg Murray's classmates and teachers see her as a troublesome and stubborn student. Her family knows that she is emotionally immature, but also sees her capable of doing great things. The family includes her beautiful scientist mother, her missing scientist father, her athletic 10-year-old twin brothers Sandy and Dennis, and her 5-year-old brother Charles Wallace. Murray, a child prodigy genius who can sometimes read Meg's mind. So already this child seems to have abilities that normal people do not have. Anyway, the book begins with the line, "It was a dark and stormy night," an allusion to the opening words in Edward Bulwer's Lytton's 1830 novel Paul Clifford. Unable to sleep during a thunderstorm, Meg descends from her attic room to find Charles Wallace sitting at the table drinking milk and eating bread and jam. They are then joined by their mother and are visited by their new eccentric neighbor, Mrs. Whatsit. In the course of conversation, Mrs. Whatsit casually mentions there is such a thing as a tesseract, which causes Dr. Murray to almost faint. The next morning, Meg discovers, now before we go on, Tesseract, where have we heard that before? We've heard that in Avengers, we've heard that in Captain America, we've heard that I believe even in Superman. We have heard of this contraption or this device or this power source, the Tesseract, in many different movies, especially the Marvel Avengers series. Anyway, we'll talk about that a little later on. So the next morning, Meg discovers the term refers to a scientific concept her father was working on before this mysterious disappearance. The following afternoon, Meg and Charles Wallace enter Meg's schoolmate Calvin O'Keefe, a high school junior who, although he is a big man on campus, considers himself a misfit as well. They then go on to visit an old haunted house near town, which Charles Wallace already knows is the home of Mrs. Whatsit. There they encounter a companion of Mrs. Whatsit, the equally strange Mrs. Who. She promises that she and her friends will help Meg find and rescue her father. A budding love interest develops between Meg and Calvin. In the evening, Charles Wallace declares it is time for them to go on their mission to save their father. This is accompanied by the appearance of the third member of Mrs. something, Mrs. Witch, who appears to materialize out of nothing. So again, keep in mind this Mrs. Whatsit, this Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Witch, okay? Especially the fact that she can materialize out of nothing. So already you're seeing that these characters are really not human. So Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Witch turn out to be supernatural beings who transport Meg, Charles Wallace, and Calvin O'Keefe through the universe by means of Tesseract, a fifth-dimensional phenomenon explained as being similar to folding the fabric of time and space. So let's stop right there. So basically, they're talking about this Tesseract, this device, this power source. Now remember, this novel was written back in the 60s, 1963 to be precise. So interesting that they're talking about this Tesseract already. And again, we have seen this Tesseract many times in the Marvel comic series, in the movie series, in many different appearances. In fact, this article talks about the many times that it has appeared. Now the Tesseract is an infinity stone of unparalleled power that is owned by Odin. It is now stored in Asgard. So basically it is, in my opinion, Odin is none other than Lucifer or Zeus, the same kind of thing. It is fallen angel technology, or whatever you want to call it. It is not of this world, and obviously humans can't mess with it, but we see it in many different places in movies, especially the Marvel series. But here it talks about its uses down here, its powers and abilities. The Tesseract is one of the most powerful artifacts in the universe. According to Fury, it holds great power that is almost unlimited. Black Widow tells Bruce Banner it has the power to wipe out the entire world. I'm not going to use that nonsense word. The Tesseract can open rifts through space. So again, more space program. They want to say that they can open portals, it can go into different dimensions, all this kind of thing. It can be used to power weapons. So this Tesseract is being shown in many different ways and many different movies. There's a bunch of the Avengers or Marvel cinematic movies that it's being shown in, and there are definitely others as well. Now, funny that it's called an Infinity Stone. Now, when we look at the Infinity Gems, there just happens to be 6, and these are also known as Soul Gems. They're also very powerful according to Marvel, according to the story as it goes. Now, these Infinity Stones is also something I believe we saw similar in Power Rangers, but what I find quite interesting is these same colors, the purple, the blue, the green, yellow, orange, red. It just so happens to be the same colors as the 6 chakras. Okay, I find that quite fascinating. You got the purple for spirituality, the blue for the third eye chakra, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, solar plex chakra, sacral chakra, and root chakra. So the same colors. Now, is that a coincidence? I highly doubt that. Okay, so really this is all new age teaching, opening of the third eye, all that kind of thing. This is exactly what they want people to do. They want to keep drawing people down into their new age slash satanic kind of thinking. Okay, so it's all about that, in my opinion. This is what these Infinity Stones really symbolize, again, in my opinion. And again, you can disagree with me if you want, but I believe that is what we are being shown here. But anyways, as we keep going, we will see that their first stop is the planet Uriel, a utopian world filled with centaur-like beings who live in a state of light and love. Now, centaurs are also something that we have seen many times. I'm sure many of you will remember movies like Percy Jackson, where he also had contact with a centaur. Now, of course, those movies were all about the Greek pantheon of God, Zeus, and Poseidon, and Hades, and of course they had centaurs. And here you had Pierce Brosnan playing a centaur, which is a half man and a half horse. To me, this is none other than Nephilim creatures that we are seeing. It even says here on Wikipedia what they are. They are, again, the creature with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a horse. And you can read more of this article for yourself right from Wikipedia if you want. But really, I believe we are being shown nephilim hybrid creatures that are being so prevalent in much of Hollywood these days. They love to glorify the fallen angels. They love to glorify their offspring, the Nephilim. This is just the same stuff over and over and over again. All right, so again, keep that in mind. So again, we've got Nephilim, we've got alternate realities or going through space, we've got using the Tesseract, going through different realities. So same kind of thing as we have been shown many times. So Mrs. Whatsit herself shows that she, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Witch are all these central-like creatures in disguise as humans. So they're showing, even what they showed on Percy Jackson, they can disguise themselves as humans, but really they are something else. They are the Mrs. WS reveal to the children that the universe is under attack from an evil being who appears as a large dark cloud called the Black Thing, which is essentially the personification of evil. Sounds like Lucifer, the devil, Satan to me. The children are then taken elsewhere to visit a woman who is a medium, or the happy medium, with a crystal ball. So here's another thing we need to remember. Another thing that they're glorifying here is our mediums. This is something that the world loves to do. They think it's all fun and games. They think that there's nothing wrong with these kinds of things. They think that it's great to look into the future, but really, if we look at what Leviticus 19 says right from verse 31, this is about the moral and ceremonial laws. Right from Leviticus 19, verse 31, it says, "Do not turn to spirit mediums or sorcerers. Don't seek them out to be defiled by them. I am Adonai, your Yahuwah." So we defile ourselves when we seek out mediums, these spirit mediums. This is something that Yahuwah is not pleased with. So we should not be doing that. But of course, this movie is promoting that as well. And like I said at the beginning, if Oprah Winfrey is in it, then definitely you're going to have New Age stuff. We already saw the chakras, what the soul gems or these infinity stones can possibly symbolize. Now we're seeing crystal balls and happy mediums. So again, good old stuff that seems to surround or go along with Oprah. Anyways, in it, they see that Earth is partially covered by the darkness, although great religious figures, philosophers, and artists have been fighting against it. Mrs. Whatsit is revealed to be a former star who exploded in an act of self-sacrifice to fight the darkness. Now, I found this a very interesting line. The fact that Mrs. Whatsit is revealed to be a former star. So when we look at what stars really are, I believe that the stars are angels. They are either the good angels or the bad angels. The word of Yahuwah seems to confirm that. I'll show you some scriptures here right from Revelation 9:1. "And I saw the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit." Now, if a star wasn't really alive, how could it be given a key? I believe that star is saying that it's an angel that comes from heaven, from the firmament, and is given that key. Later on, we see in Revelation 12 about the dragon. This great dragon, the ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, the one deceiving the whole world, was thrown down to the earth with all his angels. So we know earlier on in Revelation 12, it talks about the war in heaven. It talks about the great dragon sweeping a third of the stars down to the earth. And later on, it goes on to say that those stars are actually angels, his fallen angels. So really, the stars are actually either good angels or bad angels. So it's very clear to see that Mrs. Whatsit and Mrs. Who and Mrs. Witch, these three mythical or supernatural characters, in my opinion, are most likely fallen angels. And this is what we are being shown, I believe, in this particular story that right here, as we saw in Wikipedia here, talking about the plot summary, that we are possibly being shown that these three are supernatural beings and are possibly fallen angels. Okay, it's funny how they say a former star. I believe that's code for the fact that they are fallen angels. I also find it quite fascinating that Oprah Winfrey is playing one of these characters. She happens to be Mrs. Witch. That doesn't surprise me. Oprah, as you know, has her own network called the Oprah Winfrey Network. She's a very powerful woman. She is a very influential woman. Many people listen to her. But I find it quite interesting that when you look at OWN backwards, you get NWO. possibly code for a new world order. When you looked even at the trailer, there was a part where everyone was living in the same house. They were all wearing the same clothes. They were wearing the same colors. So again, more New World Order stuff, similar to what we saw in movies like Divergent, where they lived in all the same kind of houses, very drab, blah, gray, cubic looking buildings. Go figure, they happen to be a cube. But this is a lot, in my mind, a lot of New World Order stuff is being shown as we go through what I believe is being shown in this particular novel, in this story. Anyways, as we go on, it's funny how they say as an act of self-sacrifice to fight the darkness. So Mrs. Whatsit, was a star that exploded in an act of self-sacrifice. I'd love to glorify the fallen angels as if they're so benevolent, as if they're so kind and helping, as if they're so selfless and wanted to help humanity. But really, anything couldn't be further from the truth. So anyways, as we keep going, the children then travel to the dark planet of Kamadzotz, however you pronounce that, which has given in to the black thing. So of course they want to keep making you think of planets, space travel, going through time and space, going through a portal, all this kind of thing. Meg's father is trapped there. They find that all the inhabitants behave in a mechanistic way and seem to be under the control of a single mind. So the fact that we were talking about before, that everything seems to be the same. They're all living in the same houses. They're all dressing the same way. And according to the plot summary, they behave in a mechanistic way. They're all doing the same kinds of things. They seem to be under the control of a single mind. At the planet's central headquarters, described as central intelligence, they discover a red-eyed man. So, before we get into that, it's funny how they're under the control of a single mind. That very much sounds like the hive mind. Again, something that we have spoken about before. I'll read briefly this article, which has been shown before. It is crucial to the Illuminati that the general population are all kept in a certain acute state of being that best serves their agenda and supports their control regime, and also prevents them from awakening to what is really happening around them. The Illuminati employ many different tactics using their various institutions of control in order to keep us deceived, detached, and all thinking and operating on the same level, which is far removed from that of true reality and who we really are. And you can read the rest of this article for yourself. It's quite interesting. They show a lot of information there, but it sounds even like Revelation 17, the beast and the 10 horns, how it says from verse 16, and that how they will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked and devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. For God has put it into, or Yahuwah has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast until the words of Yahuwah are fulfilled. So being of one mind, it's the same thing, the hive mind. Okay, how the devil wants us to behave all in the same way. He wants to control us. He wants to control our thoughts. Okay, so I believe this is the same thing that we are being shown over and over and over again. Anyways, they discover a red-eyed man. Talking even about this central headquarters and all this kind of thing. It's funny how this red-eyed man with telepathic abilities who can cast a hypnotic spell over their minds. He claims to know the whereabouts of their father. Now, this red-eyed man, it's funny how Lucifer is also pictured in that same way. Okay, he is someone that is being shown even in a TV show right now called Lucifer, and of course, he is just one of many. I know there's many characters that can be shown to have red eyes, but really, I find it quite interesting that Lucifer himself is portrayed as a red-eyed man, and here we have this particular red-eyed person who's able to cast spells, who's able to control people's minds with telepathic abilities. Sounds like the devil to me. Anyways, Charles Wallace deliberately looks into the red eyes of the man, allowing himself to be taken over by the mind controlling planet in order to find their father. Under its influence, he takes Meg and Calvin to the place where Dr. Murray is being held prisoner because he would not succumb to the group mind. The planet, again, group mind, hive mind, same kind of thing, okay? Anyway, it says the planet turns out to be controlled by an evil, disembodied brain with powerful telepathic abilities, which the inhabitants of Kamadzotz called it. It really. It's funny how it just happens to be the same as Stephen King's It, the clown. That was, of course, a demon that morphed into many different, or shapeshifted into many different horrible beasts that could kill children and devour children, and did all kinds of horrible things. So funny that the computer is named It, or this disembodied brain just happens to be called It. Very, very interesting. It's also quite fascinating that they talk about it's a disembodied brain. To me, that is what the demons are. They are disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. And the fact that, again, talking about the red eyes, I found this picture quite fascinating with the red eyes. I honestly believe that demons are truly the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. They are looking for a body to inhabit, and of course they love to possess human beings. So interesting that this computer just so happens to be a disembodied brain, possibly code for disembodied spirit that is looking for something to possess. Anyways, Charles Wallace takes them to the place where it has it held. In such proximity to it, the children are threatened by a possible telepathic takeover of their minds. Of course, exactly what the spirits of the Nephilim want to do. They want to take over us. They want to possess us. That's exactly what Lucifer wants. With special powers from Mrs. Who's glasses, Dr. Murray is able to tesser Calvin, Meg, and himself away from Camazotz, but Charles Wallace is left behind, still under the influence of it. Dr. Murray does not know how to protect Meg from the black thing which surrounds the planet as they test her through it, which nearly kills her. When they arrive on the neighboring planet of Ixchel, Meg is nearly frozen and paralyzed. Calvin and the Murrays are discovered by the planet's inhabitants, large, sightless beasts with tentacles and 4 arms who prove both wise and gentle. So again, in my opinion, these are just, again, the Nephilim being glorified. They're saying that they are large, sightless beasts. Again, if they are large, it's the giants. It's all about, again, Isaiah 13 verse 3, saying that in the last days that Abba YHWH, in order to fulfill his wrath, is going to allow the giants to return onto the earth, and we are being shown this over and over and over again. Okay, so as we keep going, Meg's paralysis is cured under the care of one inhabitant who Meg nicknames Aunt Beast. So again, Beast, all right, the Nephilim, the fallen angels, the Beast, the false Messiah that is coming. Meg overcomes her anger at her father for leaving Charles Wallace on Camazotz, realizing that parents can't fix everything and sometimes children can solve problems themselves. So of course they love to also show that parents can be useless, that children can really solve things on their own, and of course leave it to Disney to be promoting a dysfunctional family. Then the trio of Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Witch arrive. They charge Meg with rescuing Charles Wallace from it because only Meg has a strong enough bond with him. Their father had last seen Charles Wallace when he was a baby, and Calvin had just only met him. They each give her a gift. Mrs. Whatsit gives Meg her love. Mrs. Who quotes Meg a passage from the Bible. Go figure, they're using the Bible now, about God, or I would say Yahuwah, choosing the foolish of the world to confound the wise and the weak to defeat the strong, which is from 1 Corinthians 2 verses 27 to 29. Go figure that they quote the Bible, because they really have no business quoting the word of Yahuwah, but of course the devil loves to use the word as if it's his own. So Mrs. Witch tells Meg that she has one thing that it does not have. Upon arriving at the building where it is housed, Charles Wallace is still there under its influence. Meg realizes that the one thing she has that it does not is love. So she focuses all her love at Charles Wallace and is able to free him from its control. Mrs. Who, Mrs. Witch, and Mrs. Whatsit tesser the Murrays and Calvin back to earth. Of course, this love, even this is the same thing that the church goes on about. They love to go on about love and grace and peace and harmony. This is all the false love. This is the same thing as all these ecumenical gatherings and these one world gatherings, same kind of thing, this false love that they love to promote. Anyways, in the vegetable garden, they are reunited with Mrs. Murray and the twins. Mrs. Whatsit says that although she and the others like the spectacle of the family reuniting, they have to go somewhere. Before Mrs. Whatsit finishes her sentence, she and the others disappear. So again, to me, showing fallen angels that are coming, This movie talks about portals, the Tesseract opening, rifts in time and space, going through different dimensions. We have seen this time and again. You remember the movie Stargate. There was even a show called Stargate SG-1. And of course, in Stargate, they went to a different planet, and you see the pyramid and the obelisk and the false messiah, all this kind of thing. So the traveling or through portals is nothing new. They are showing this over and over again. I believe this is yet more cryptic, or to me, obvious clues to the fact that the fallen angels are going to be coming into our world very, very soon. So don't be, also remember that Disney, here's a good picture with good old Disney and Werner von Braun, the godfather of NASA, and of course they're talking about rocketry here. Most likely Disney and NASA, Werner von Braun are very much in bed together. They promote the same things. They promote this same false information, this stuff that they claim is education, but it's really it takes more faith really to believe in science than what the word of Yahuwah says. They want to disprove Abba YHWH. These people are Freemasons. Werner von Braun is a Freemason. He was a Nazi. Walt Disney was a 33rd-degree Freemason. So all these people are liars. They are part of the Great Deception. In fact, they are doing their part to bring in the Great Deception, the false Messiah, the alien invasion, all this kind of thing. So don't be surprised that Disney and von Braun were very close. Okay, at the same time, remember, Disney is a total Illuminati corporation. They own a big chunk of the media as well. So, many of us know who are awake, who found out a long time ago that Disney is nothing more than a devil company. They put their subliminal messages in many different ways. You can see about it, and so many, old cartoons ask about Illuminati. It's right there in plain sight. They love to put their clues in there. So do not be fooled by Disney. It is no surprise, in my opinion, that they're coming out with a movie adaptation of this book, which in my opinion happens to be very, very occultic, promoting the agenda of the fallen angels, promoting the great deception that the false Messiah is coming soon, that the giants and the Nephilim, they really want to program people to accept the giants and the Nephilim, that when these beings show up with many different powers, they want people to accept it. They want people to be ready for this. They want people to even desire these same kind of traits, to change their DNA and to become something else. They make it look very, very appealing, but do not be fooled. All of this stuff is playing into the final great deception that is coming upon this earth. And so again, the word of God says, the word of Yahuwah says in 2 Thessalonians 2, that the great deception is coming to those who refuse to believe the truth. So they will be given the lie. So do not be caught in that camp. Be caught amongst the wise virgins who know the truth, who can see what is going on, who interpret these things through the lens of Scripture. And so, as always, you do not ever have to agree with anything that I am saying. Please do your own research, but always be aware of what is being shown to us in plain sight. Abba YHWH, bless you.
Right. Army.
What, did you stop for drive-through? Swing up park. I'm gonna lay him out for you.